Monday afternoon, a violent storm swept across the Pyrenees Mountains, causing severe damage in many areas, especially in Lasu d'Urgell and Puera. Within minutes, torrential rain, hail, and strong winds submerged the streets, disrupting daily life. Temperatures dropped suddenly, shifting from oppressive heat to chilling cold in an instant. In the town of Lasergel, rainfall exceeded 43 liters per square meter in a short span, leaving many streets deeply flooded. Fire services received about 30 emergency calls related to flooding and landslides. The N260 highway, which passes through the municipality, was temporarily closed in both directions due to a landslide, while several public facilities, including swimming pools, gyms, and parks, were inundated. Residents were shocked by the storm's intensity. One local wrote on social media, "My grandmother said she hasn't seen rain this heavy and intense in years." The post was accompanied by images showing widespread flooding. In Puigcerdá, the storm brought an extreme temperature drop from 32.5 degrees Celsius to just 15.7 degrees Celsius within an hour. This nearly 17-degree fall clearly demonstrated the unusual strength of the weather system. In response, Catalonia's Civil Protection Authority activated the ANANCAP plan, warning of the risk of heavy rain and flash floods across central Catalonia and parts of the Pyrenees. Forecasts suggested that on Tuesday, rainfall could exceed 20 liters per square meter in just 30 minutes, raising the threat of localized flooding in northern and western Catalonia. Beyond Spain, Italy also faced destructive weather. A severe hailstorm struck Pimento, flooding Highway 128 near the Summitai Junction in Sonerby. A large pine tree was uprooted and fell, causing a traffic accident. Heavy rains continued across central inland regions and along the country's southwestern coast. Storms battered the new mountains, the towns of Usasai and Aglastra, and mountain areas near Capatara, bringing intense lightning and strong gusts of wind. Another serious incident occurred in Señori, where a massive pine tree collapsed onto Provincial Road 5, crushing 2 cars. At least 1 person was injured. The Cagliari Fire Department quickly arrived, rescued the victim, cleared the road, and cut down other hazardous trees to secure the area. These events highlight how extreme weather continues to pose a constant threat in southern Europe this summer. Experts warn that global climate change is making storms more violent and unpredictable, with hail, flash floods, and strong winds becoming increasingly frequent. There was little time to prepare. The sky, once clear, suddenly turned dark gray. People were still working, shopping, or walking outside when the first hailstone struck. Emergency alerts were issued, but for many, they came too late. By then, nature's fury had already begun. The sound of pounding hail echoed everywhere. Ice slammed into rooftops, vehicles, and sidewalks. Some hailstones were as large as grains of rice, falling so rapidly that within minutes, streets turned into a white sheet of ice. Panic spread as residents rushed indoors. Cars skidded out of control, buses stopped, and shop awnings collapsed under the weight of hailstones. The city center looked frozen, not by snow, but by chunks of ice falling from the sky. Locals captured haunting images, torrents of water mixed with hail rushing through the streets, sweeping along debris, leaves, and mud. Drainage systems quickly overflowed, turning avenues into winter rivers in the middle of spring. In nearby villages, the situation was even worse. Brown floodwaters swallowed roads. Parked cars were swept away like dry leaves. Entire homes stood half-submerged, dark and powerless, their windows empty and silent. Power outages struck large areas as transmission lines failed and transformers exploded. Repair crews worked through the night, but the damage was too extensive to restore electricity everywhere. Small businesses suffered severe losses. Windows cracked, roofs leaked, and market stalls were ruined. Shopkeepers swept up broken glass even as hail continued to pound outside. Farmers faced devastation. Orchards, vegetable crops, and even tea plantations were destroyed, leaves shredded, branches broken. Within less than an hour, an entire year's harvest was wiped out. By morning, local officials surveyed the destruction. Some farms could recover within weeks, but many would not rebuild until the next season. Early estimates showed massive financial losses. Emergency crews worked through the night. They cleared fallen branches, restored electricity, and distributed tarps to families with damaged roofs. Teams went door to door, checking for injuries and delivering food and drinking water to those in need. On July 2nd, 2825, northern and western China were struck by one of the most devastating natural disasters in recent memory. A series of relentless downpours triggered catastrophic floods, overwhelming rivers and transforming cities into lakes. This disaster, which has caused widespread destruction, is far from over, and the effects will be felt for years to come. For several days leading up to the disaster, the weather in China had been abnormally intense. The rain started in late June, but it wasn't until July 2nd when the situation escalated into a full-blown catastrophe. As rivers swelled and the ground became saturated, the first signs of flooding were seen in Henan province. By the early morning hours of July 2nd, the Yellow River and several of its tributaries reached dangerous levels. In Henan, the flooding began when the Song River finally broke its banks, inundating nearby towns and villages. The floodwaters rushed into communities, submerging roads, homes, and farmland, with little time for locals to prepare. As the floodwaters rose, so did the death toll. By the end of July 2nd, it was confirmed that at least 5 people had died, and 3 others were still missing. Local authorities scrambled to launch rescue operations, but the rapidly rising waters and the vast affected area made it difficult to reach everyone in time. The floodwaters didn't stop at Henan. By July 3rd, the flooding had spread to Guangxi province, where continuous rainfall triggered devastating landslides. Entire buildings were swept away, and roads were rendered impassable. The floodwaters have not only destroyed homes, but have also crippled the region's infrastructure. Key transportation routes, including railways and airports, were also severely affected. With the situation worsening, the government swiftly mobilized a massive rescue effort. More than 1,000 emergency responders were dispatched, including firefighters, medical personnel, and specialized rescue teams. Boats were deployed to rescue stranded residents, and helicopters scoured the flood-stricken areas in search of survivors. By July 4th, the search for the missing intensified. Thousands of residents were stranded in their homes, and emergency services worked nonstop to locate anyone still trapped by the rising waters. As the days passed, the toll on the human psyche became just as devastating as the physical damage caused by the floods. In the face of this overwhelming disaster, local communities began organizing their own efforts to help. Volunteers arrived from nearby towns, bringing food, water, and supplies to the affected areas. Even as the government took charge of the larger rescue efforts, it was clear that the people of China were determined to support one another through this crisis. The floods have not only devastated homes but also the region's agriculture. Vast swathes of farmland have been completely submerged, destroying crops and threatening the livelihoods of farmers. As one of China's largest agricultural provinces, the long-term impact of this flood will likely be felt for years, both in terms of food supply and the economic costs to the country.
这遛儿的会不远了吧？外面，在马路上面，全部不远了。进也不能进，出也不能出了，现在是。
On July 5th, the Chinese government declared a state of emergency, with President Xi Jinping personally overseeing the response efforts. In addition to deploying more rescue teams, the government announced that emergency aid would be sent to the affected regions, including food, medical supplies, and financial support to rebuild homes and infrastructure. Despite the massive response, the floods are far from over. As July 6th approached, authorities warned that more rains were expected, which could worsen the situation. With a swift response, the resilience of the people will be tested as they face a long and difficult recovery. The rains have also triggered severe landslides across Guangxi province, with mudslides burying homes and cutting off entire villages. Roads, bridges, and vital infrastructure have been damaged, creating additional obstacles for rescue teams. Thousands are stranded, unable to leave their homes due to the destruction of transport routes. Experts agree that climate change is playing an increasingly significant role in the frequency and intensity of these disasters. Global warming is causing more extreme weather events. Including heavy rainfall, which contributes to catastrophic floods. While this flood may be an extreme case, it is part of a larger trend of worsening natural disasters across the world. As the floodwaters begin to recede, the focus shifts to rebuilding. Emergency teams have started clearing debris, repairing infrastructure, and working on restoring power to affected areas. But the recovery process is expected to take months, if not years, as communities and businesses rebuild from the damage. Amidst the destruction, the human spirit shines. Stories of survival, of people helping their neighbors, and of families reunited in the aftermath of the floods. Offer hope. Yet, there is also deep sorrow, as families mourn the loss of loved ones, and communities struggle to find a way forward after losing so much. As China and other nations continue to battle more frequent and severe natural disasters, the need for improved disaster preparedness is urgent. The Chinese government has vowed to invest more in flood prevention infrastructure and early warning systems. The country must now adapt to this new reality, where the threat of natural disasters is becoming ever more pressing. The devastation of these floods has left an indelible mark on China. But as always, the strength of the people and the support of the government will ensure that, even in the face of tragedy, recovery is possible. The road ahead is long, but the resilience of the Chinese people remains unwavering.
Nature doesn't send us warnings, but we can. Floods, earthquakes, wildfires, and storms are striking harder and faster than ever before. By subscribing, you are not just watching, you are joining a movement to stay alert, stay informed, and helps others to do the same. Hit the subscribe now because the next disaster won't wait, and neither should you. Be ready and be aware.